The presentation I'm doing today is on how to fix your top 10 operational issues. As an overview, this is a bit more about the journey of what we went on to. So my background is, I used to be the national management trainer for companies like LA Fitness. I was a troubleshooter going around all the fitness fair sites, doing that type of stuff. So I've done a lot of fixing of gyms and lots of helping them. And I used to see lots of the same problems coming up all the time. So this is a little compilation of the top 10. Now, although that you're independent, the weird thing is, even though I've only ever really worked for chains, I've got a company now where I do independent stuff. But every time I went in to fix it, I was going in to fix the individual gym, right? So I wasn't trying to fix the whole brand. I was going in to fix the individual independent gym that I was in at the time. So let's get started. Again, my overview, the first company I ever worked for was McDonald's. Bad job. 1985, spray on trousers, cap, have a nice day. Shocker. It's probably the worst job I've ever had, but probably still to this day, the best company I've ever worked for due to the systems, the processes, and the way they do stuff. Once I left there, I came into leisure after I'd done sports science in university. And I've been in here now for probably nearly 30 years, which is a bit depressing, but we'll crack on anyway. So let's have a look at these top 10 issues. I am a walker, so I'm sorry for that. You're going to have to follow me and see how I go. The first reason or the first issue that we come across is time, right? We don't have enough of it. Everyone's too busy trying to find things. One of the lads who I worked with used to be the head of sport in Reading Uni. And when he first went into the site, they had an issue. Right, someone had cut themselves and there was a claim against him. Well, the amount of time it took him to find the data, the information, to find out who'd been trained, who'd read the risk assessments, who'd followed all the procedures, trying to find out what people had done, if they'd done the checks, if they hadn't done the checks. It took him, I don't know, probably about a month or so to find the data. And that can't be right, can it? In an ideal world, this day and age, we should know exactly what's going on in our sites at any one time. So time... Apart from this one, because I'm talking now. Okay, so, yeah, time is a massive, massive issue for... I'll just wait for him to finish that and then we'll go again. It's extracting the urine, DeVito. Okay, so back in the room. Time is absolutely massive for all of us. Now, the weird thing is, right, you have 10,100 minutes in a week. Now, we're asleep for a lot of them, right? And as independents, you're probably quite aware there's a lot of juggling going on, right? There's a lot of, you're trying to do a lot of things and trying to be experts in a lot of different bits and pieces. So, one of the first things we have to fix is how can we try and free up people's time? Whenever I used to go into an organization, the time it took me to find out what was going on was always too long, right? So it would normally take me a couple of days to get into the nitty-gritty to find out what would go on. Now, when you speak to managers in certain sites, they always tell you what's good and what's going well and what's fine and what's happening. I always find that when you speak to staff, you start to dig a little tiny bit deeper. And it's things like, in your job roles, I know most people run the independent sites, but what's your induction like? What's your induction like for your receptionist? What's the induction like for your cleaner? So once we start breaking it down, what training, what things, what jobs are they actually expected to do? Now, the key behind this is the things like risk assessments and all that, they're not going to get us more customers. Let's not kid ourselves. So if I do risk really, really well, I'm not going to get more customers, right? But I'm not going to kill anyone, and I'm probably not going to damage the reputation of the organization. So it's massively important that we've got them there. But who's read them, right? Are they up to date? Who's read them? That type of stuff, really, really important. Procedures. What's the procedure for changing your till roll? What's the procedure for changing your bins? What's your procedure? What do they look like? What do we actually train people in? And what I found is that you go into all these organizations and very, very quickly, there's very little information there. We do the bits that we can get sued for normally. That's what we call an induction. So day one, we make them sign a load of forms so they can't sue us. After that, it becomes a little bit wavy and a little bit of a problem. So at this stage, very early in consultancy or going into a business, I ask these questions. What percentage of your staff have read the risk assessments? Well, this is massive, right? It's absolutely key. Who's been trained? And when I say who's been trained, I mean in absolutely everything. What McDonald's taught me is this. Your induction should be every single thing you need to know to be able to do your job. You shouldn't need any more training apart from recap or development. Okay, so in McDonald's, there's the Mac way. I'm going to come on to that a little bit further down the line. Who's doing what and what are we missing? So if I said to you, compliance-wise, how many checks did we miss in the last month? And I don't mean going back with a different coloured pen. I mean physically we actually missed them, they didn't happen. Or if we asked, one of the questions I like to ask is this as well. I didn't put it on the screen, but how many tasks does it take to run a leisure centre per day? So I'll give you an example. The sports park in Reading University, it's 124 tasks a day on average. If I go into somewhere like Loughborough University, you're looking at around about 143 tasks a day to run their business. How many tasks a day do you have to run your business? Right, now this is a really important number. If you don't know it, what bits are you missing out on? So I think that's key. And are your staff actually okay to do that task? The things we asked them to do, have they been covered? Have they been trained? Is it signed off? So these were things that I'd always find were missing, massively missing in the organisation. And normally I found out it wasn't okay, right? But like I said, the time it took to get there was quite painful. Reason number 3, it's got to be for everyone, right? You've got to train I asked this question, right? Who's it okay not to train in your business? Right, in terms of reputation, in terms of what we want people to do, who is it okay not to train? So a really important thing is here, part-timers. Part-timers, we leave them for a while, don't we? They're the ones that, because I always ask people, do I have to pay less when the part-timers are in because we haven't trained them or we haven't done what they want them to do? So on the Sunday graveyard shift, it's a nightmare that's late on a Sunday, isn't it? Okay, so to me, we've got to look after every single member of staff. There should be a plan of exactly what every single one of them's doing because it's your business, it's your standard, and it's your reputation. Reason 4, whatever we do, it has to free up time. So if we're going to bring anything new into the business, it can't be something else that's going to make it harder for people. It can't be something that's going to make it stronger. The whole idea is we're already too busy, right? We've had this little thing called COVID. There's a little bit of a crisis thing with people having money, all bills going up. So what tends to happen is someone's left. We haven't quite replaced them. We've just divvied out a few of the tasks, and we've done that quite a few times. We've got to the stage now where we haven't really got much time left. Now, there is a little thing that I quite often do with businesses. It's called the Pareto or the 80-20 rule. Most of the time, 20% of your tasks will probably give you 80% of the revenue. So are you doing the right things? We've got to question it and get down to that level, okay? Reason 5, God, there's so much to do. Have you ever written a mind map of exactly what we do in our businesses? It's absolutely huge, right? It's the amount of, well-being, community, staffing, trading, writing inductions, making sure people are doing things correctly, making sure it's clean, making sure we're putting the social media up, it's a minefield, right? So again, this is massively, what plates are going to smash? I don't know in your business whether you've ever decided. Let's say we've got 10 plates. I'm a big fan of saying if one's going to smash, it'll be this one. And if another one's going to smash, it's going to be this one. So it's getting the priority right and making sure that we've decided that the correct things are in order. An example would be, imagine if you did an ex-member campaign to everyone that's left your business 11 months ago, because if they left you, there's a high likelihood they might have gone somewhere where there's a contract. Now, if I sent out, let's say I had 100 people and I sent out 100 letters, I'm going to go old school because make it even dearer for you. It's going to cost me probably £65 to do. A relatively small amount of time, and you'd expect between a 4 to 7% return because it's quite a targeted campaign. Now, the 4 to 7% return means I'm going to get between 4 and 7 members. Now, 4 members is going to give you more than £60. So once you look at your lifetime value and your average yield, there's a high likelihood that that's going to yield you at least £1,000. So for £60, have you got time not to do that? Right? To me, and this is where we need to have a look at the actual plates that we're spinning, and are we doing the ones that are actually going to drive the business forward? The way. Again, this started off in McDonald's. They called it the Mick way. I know it's cheesy, right? But in McDonald's, they've got a Mick Academy. You can get a Mick degree. Right? Now, it is dead cheesy, but the idea behind it, if Gordon Ramsay went to McDonald's, they would teach him the Mick way. They wouldn't assume the NVQ that he got somewhere 27 years ago is okay, because things might have changed. When they come in, they're going to say, this is the way that we do it here. right? And it's really, really important to make sure that we are, what is your way? Now, what I mean by this is, I call it Chinese whisper training. So do you know, like, if you've got like a receptionist or someone who helps you, and they then train someone else how to do that job, are they training them the exact same way that you want them to train them? There's a high likelihood that that's where the Chinese whisper starts to break down. Okay, so again, this comes back to what do we actually want these people to do, and what is the actual standard for your organization? Now, I see this all the time. I call it sort of, I go to some organizations and the what I call putting plasters on it. But I go to other organizations and I see things that I call them pockets of genius. These are the amazing things that you question yourself and think, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing that across the board? I'm going to give you some really little silly examples, right? One of them is bin bag training. Now, there's a high likelihood that most of you haven't had bin bag training in your induction, right? So the weird thing is, when I was in McDonald's, they used to, basically every single day, every bin bag would have 8 bin bags in it. So when it was full, you just take it out and walk away, right? And then there was no other job to do, it was fine. And the reason why I had 8 bin bags in, because the average bin in McDonald's gets emptied 7 times a day. So it means that you're never going to need to go and find bin bags or get that little yellow sign because it's dripping everywhere. So it doesn't turn into a job that it doesn't need to be. It might be another little silly thing that's to do with services, but it might be every April we change the clocks forward, right? It's spring forward, and then in the fall we fall backwards in October. But every October, if you change your battery, you'll never have a clock that doesn't work. So once we start looking at these little tiny things that really start to make a difference in the service levels that we do, this is what it's about. Now, in the business that we run in OpsPal, we've got this thing called OpsMunity. I've gone down the McDonald's cheesy line, right? So it's the OpsPal community. But I'll talk to you about this a little bit more when I get to the middle of the presentation. But it's about the sharing of best practice. I work with the gentleman at the back. He's slightly balding. He's got a black top on. He used to be the head of sport at Reading University. During COVID, I had the pleasure of doing about, I don't know how many hours worth I did, but I presented to about 500 or 600 different organisations on how to get open after COVID. I did a plan for the whole of Wales, did one for Scotland, did some stuff for UK Active, etc., etc. And that's when I met this balding gent at the back. I can say that because I'm bald, so it's fair dues, isn't it? And the idea, he basically said, look, I've got this thing, I've got this tool, I think it will help. Right? Now, the whole idea about COVID, I didn't want us to have 500 different floor signs. I didn't want us to have 500 different ways of opening back up, 500 different ways of how to open a window or what we need to do. So that's why it was all about trying to pull together best practice. I'm going to take that a little bit further as we go on. But the key is what are your pockets of genius? And are they happening right across the organisation? Taking the pain out of an induction. Jesus Christ. I don't know what the induction's like for your job role. Right, so I know that even if you're the gym owner, now if you're a gym owner, you might have the future ambitions of turning it into a franchise, right? Now, that's got to be one of the aims that you've got, right? You want to make this steady brand. This is what happens. It's like in a box, we pick it up, we drop it down, add staff, and it's ready to go. That's what we need to do. But in order to do that, what does this look like? Like I say, I know every organisation I've ever worked in, the induction is, day 1, signed a load of forms so I can't sue you. Day 2, shadow someone till they go on the break. If I've done okay, then I might not get any more help after that until there's a problem. Right? Now, I know yours is going to be much more thorough than that. But when I break it down, you know, if I've got a receptionist, I've probably got a 22-page document of just one-liners of all different things they need to do. Little silly things like, in your organisation, have you ever had a complaint about air conditioning? Put your hand up if you've had a complaint about air conditioning at some stage in... So, yeah, quite a few. Brilliant, yeah, because it gets hot or it gets cold or whatever it may be. So I'm assuming in your induction, every single person gets trained how to use the air conditioning. Because that would make sense, wouldn't it? If we know there's a problem, then we'd want to do something to fix it. If you've got a spinning class, for instance, has this ever happened to someone? I turned up at a site the other week. I turned up and I got to the spinning class early, right? They had 30 bikes. I went to the far corner, not the one under the air conditioning. I went to the far corner. I sat on the bike. Next minute, a lady comes in. Bear in mind, there's 29 other bikes. And she did this thing where she went, and I'm thinking, I know what it is. I'm on her bike. right? Now, there's 29 other bikes, and I don't know it's her bike, because imagine if I was new. So I said to her, am I on your bike, love? And she went, yeah. So I jumped off, got onto the next one, she went, oh, that's Tony's. And I'm thinking, this is mental. Now, there's a high likelihood that this might have happened at your site. So I'd be saying to you, so what have you done about it? So in every gym that I've ever been in, or every gym I consult in, we always say these 4 bikes in this area cannot be anyone's bike, because I don't want that new person coming in feeling uncomfortable. If we get information, what are we doing with it? And is it inducted? Is it part of our standard? Is this part of what we do? One-to-ones. Oh, we don't do one-to-ones. We talk to everyone all the time. Yeah, all right, yeah. To me, this is possibly the most important thing in any business, is making sure that these staff that we have are on the right track and that they're developing. I was in an organisation the other week, and this girl said to me, I've got a really well-established team. And I said, okay, so someone's not very good at developing the staff then. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, if you've had your whole team for 12 years and none of them have moved, they're all still doing the same thing, do you honestly think that they're firing on all cylinders? Do you honestly think that they're using every neuron they've got? You know, I'd rather have someone for 2 years doing some amazing work for me that moves on because they developed and got better than have someone who's stuck in a rut doing the same thing. So to me, one-to-ones are possibly the most important thing in any single business. Put your hand up if you've had a one-to-one in the last month. 5, not bad, not bad. Probably about. Was it any good? Because that's the next question, isn't it? Spot on, love it. Okay, so one-to-ones, making them happen. This is the missing link. This is the biggest thing that I always see. No one's got time to do the one-to-one, but it's a bit chicken and egg. Now, if I spend a good hour with someone knowing exactly what they're doing, making sure they're on the right track for this month, making sure that they can show me something at the end of it, that they've improved our product. You know, a big question to ask your team as well is, I was working in a university the other week, and they've got a sports development department. So I asked them how much time in that week do they spend developing, and they said they don't because they haven't got time. And I was like, it's in the name, surely. Sports development means that we should be making things better. But if you're a manager, surely your job is to make people better at what they do, right? Massively important. And if they're not better this month, whose fault is it? Okay, it's probably yours, but that's fine. Now, the other problem I find is trying to get it all in one place, right? There's systems all over the gaff. There's paper here. There's an Excel spreadsheet somewhere else. There's a list on a wall somewhere. It's all over the place and trying to pull things in. Now, obviously, how we solved this at OpsPal and how we brought this together was quite easy. Now, what I want to talk about for the next part of it is sort of what we did and how we tried to overcome those things, but also what we'd like to do with the independent market. So best practice is absolutely huge in everything I do. The key behind this is we were going to offer 5 organisations for a massively reduced cost to come on board with us. The idea behind it is that our price for independence is normally about $1,250 a year. We were going to do a deal for the first 5 organisations to come on board. It's £500. We're going to get rid of the £2,000 training costs. We're going to get rid of the £1,000 installation costs. If you like it next year, we won't put your price up because you've come on board as a beta. But the idea behind this and what we're trying to do is we want to build how to build the ultimate independent gym, right? So what risk assessments do you need in your business? What procedures should you have? Why haven't you got the bin bag procedure? Yeah? Why haven't you got the aircon training? Why haven't we got these things? What checks do you need to bring into your business? How do you audit your business? How do you audit it for HR? How do you audit it for standards? How do you audit it for sales? How do you audit it for your journey? If I go to another site that says we haven't got a member's journey, you have. It's what's happening to your customers from when they come in, from when they leave. Okay? So the idea behind it, this offer, now, I'll be honest with you, we can't do the first 5 because 6 people have already signed up this morning before I've done the talk. So we are going to extend it to probably 10 organisations. But the idea behind it is that with these 10 organisations, we would like to share best practice. So the idea behind it is, let's say someone's got a really good open check sheet, and out of the 10 organisations that come on board, we will make a best practice out of all them 10 to make sure we've considered everything. It might be a shift handover. It might be how to do cleaning. It might be how to clean a toilet. Whatever it is, we want to make best practice out of these 10. And what we're going to have before we know it is the best way on how to run an independent gym. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to show you how and why we've tried to do this with OpsPal. So problem 1 was time. So Manchester Metropolitan University came on board with us. They had an issue. They had a fire. Now, this is the weirdest thing, right? They were made up they'd had a fire. Now, I know that sounds strange, but the fella who bought this product was like, I want to see if it works. He rang me up and said, Craig, we've had a fire. Within 4 minutes, 26 seconds, we could prove to him every single bit of information that he needed. We could basically prove exactly who'd read what, we could prove the risk assessments had read, all the training had been covered by all his team, the checks had been done that day, and it was ready to go and packaged up within 4 minutes, 26. So we've got to try and make it easier for people. You don't have to go and get a pen. You know, this works on your phone, all that type of stuff. But the key, you don't have to write your name. You don't have to write the dates. You don't have to blag it and go back and get a different coloured pen or use your left hand because you forgot it or whatever it is. This will make sure that we've got everything done. So it logs everything, every single touch, every single thing ends up becoming retrievable. Now, whether you use our product or not, this still needs to happen, right? So I'm not saying go and buy OpsPal after this. I probably should because I'm up here, right? But the reality behind it is this stuff needs to be done. And we need to know exactly how it's going on. You know, if I'm a franchisee, do I want to know exactly whether people are doing what they're meant to do? Probably, yeah? Well, it would make sense to, I think. Whether people have understood stuff, if there's been changes. Remember COVID, that fun time we all had? What a drama that was. Right? Now, the weirdest thing remember every single time Boris or Mark Drakeford or someone piped up? Every single time, every Friday, remember when all your risk assessments changed and all your procedures changed and you made your staff sign them all again? Okay. So this allows that to happen, right? Really, really quickly. Really, again, knowing things are okay, massively important. So the idea behind this, for every single aspect of every part of your business, do you know that you're okay? The one thing that we say, the difference between thinking you're okay and knowing you're okay could be absolutely huge. And most organisations we go into, and bear in mind, some of the ones we've started off with are, you know, York University, Leeds University, Anglesey, there's some really good councils, trusts, that type of stuff, and they are miles away. They thought they had a better hang on this, but they just didn't know. And there's a high likelihood that in your business, you know, ideally now you should know what's happened today. You shouldn't have to go back and wait till tomorrow to find out what's going on. We should know all this stuff instantly. It's about creating dashboards for your business. Now, the key about a dashboard is this, right? It's no good my car dashboard telling me I was speeding yesterday, right? Because I've already got the ticket. It's got to be now. It's got to be live. So you should know exactly how you're getting on. The reality is when we go into organizations, they either know it's okay or they know what they've got to do. They know their starting point. So it's massive. It's got to be for everyone, right? So imagine this, a new person comes on board, say it's reception, you add them to the system, you say reception, because they're in reception, they need these risk assessments, they need these procedures, these are the checks, these are the jobs, this is the training they need. The induction's spat out at them, right? And we know that we've covered every single bit of it. Who's had an induction review? Who's had an induction review? Do you know when someone goes over the induction you never had in the first place to make sure that it's stuck? Now, what's amazing is there's a high likelihood that most of your staff have had a first aid review. Now, I hope you never use that skill. I hope that you never have to use first aid, but I'm going to train you in it all the time just in case. But the stuff you do all the time, have you been trained in it? How many incoming calls do you have? What's the training look like for the calls? When you run an event, what does the training look like for the event? You've only got to go and look at some of the people in there. It's quite, so when you're like one of them presentery people or they've all got stands and they're like, hello. Half of them haven't been trained on what to do. That's why they don't know how to approach it. It's dead funny and mad, right? So to me, this is something, but it has to be for everyone. Okay, reason 4, it's got to free up time. It's got to make things quicker. It can't make things slower. We've already lost time. This has to make stuff up. So knowing exactly what's happened, this does little things like, imagine, you must all do standards audits, right? You must all have a walk round. I call them fussy customer walks, right? I call them fussy customer walks. McDonald's taught me them. Or I'll call it the king's visit. if the king was coming to your site tomorrow, I bet you a few things would get painted, wouldn't they? A few things, the weeds would go for the kickoff. Right, outside, the spider's webs would be gone, everything would be gleaming. So the idea behind it, when you do this standards audit, it tells you what to check, it tells you what to look at, you add the problems in, and the problem is, it can't be lost. Right? I don't have to go back to Excel, I don't have to go back to Outlook and send it to them and then chase them to see if they've done it. We'll literally know instantly whether they've done it. A quick task, so you walk outside, the banner's flapping, or you're on your way home because you've been in for 43 hours in that day because you're independent and you're always there all the time, right? So you've been in all day, you're walking out, the banner's flapping all over the place, and it's like, oh, nightmare. So on this, you'd go to Quick Add, and instantly it'd be on the dashboard for the people who you want to fix it to say, can you please sort the banner out for us? Right? Any one-off task, we have this little thing where we can learn from them and bring it back. But the key is, it's got to free up time. It can't be something else that takes us even longer. Reason 5, you've got so many plates spinning. Well, how do you log all these problems and all these things and all these bits you're going to chase? Did the social media go out? What was the ROI? Remember ROI? That thing that you do a campaign, you should know what's going on. But normally we've done one and we just do the next one because we're too busy. So we don't learn from it. We don't generate stuff from it. So the amount of information in here, it all comes back to one place. Right? By looking at one screen, I can see exactly how we're getting on in the organization. This is huge, right? This is the bit that people don't know, right? And I know sometimes I do this all the time in demos, the amount of organizations who've told me the good. Now, what's weird about when you get a product like this? It's only the good organizations that want to come on board because they're willing to admit that they might want to do some changes. It's quite often the ones who, oh no, we think everything's okay. I always say, if you think you're okay, you need us. Because you should know you're okay. It shouldn't be a think thing, right? So knowing where everything is, knowing what's going on, so we don't smash plates. Reason 6 is the consistent way. Now, in this day and age, have we still really got written procedures? Have we still got that? How to clean a toilet written down? Now, again, to me, this is about pockets of genius. If you've got more than one site, there might be a receptionist who's absolutely amazing at greeting people. Well, that needs to become the way. Right? Not because we've got a battle axe in another site or someone who sits there with I call them Rennies because they only smile when they've got wind on the desk. And it's like, oh my God. So to me, it's about creating the way. How do you do it? How do we get this consistent? So imagine now, writing a procedure for cleaning a toilet's going to take you ages, right? Taking the photographs, getting all the bits. Get your phone. Right, here's the cleaning cupboard. Here's the cost certificate. Covered, tick. Then we're going to go over and say, here's the PPE you wear, covered, tick. And then we're going to go, right, you start at the top, you go around here, you lift it up here because there'll be curly hairs, you go under here because that's where it goes. Why have you got yellow grout on the sides? Maybe we can fix that. Okay, send. And that's the standard that we want everyone to go to. Now, if we haven't got enough time, wouldn't it be handy is instead of you getting dragged away from your job to go and train someone, we knew we could get them to a certain standard without that happening. So you're constantly not getting peppered. Or if someone comes up to you and says, how'd you do that thing again? You just go, it's on OpsPal. Go and have a look. There's the standard. That's what we do. Imagine having your induction in your pocket at all times. Imagine as a manager not being asked all them questions consistently over and over again. Version control is not a problem. You must have had that where someone's using a different bloody spreadsheet or a different risk assessment because it hasn't been updated. They can, in this sheet, they can only do what you want them to do. And we use the right people to do it. Putting plasters on it, well, what we built is OpsMunity, right? So the idea, we're doing OpsMunity, we've got a university section. So all the universities come. The last one we did was on how to induct your staff. The next one we're going to do for universities is how to get the best out of freshers or welcome week because the woke people have changed it. Now, for this group, what we'd like to do is maybe how to do social media effectively. It might be how to induct your staff. It might be how to get the best out of January and February. But could you imagine the power of all the brains in this room creating the best way to do it? Not reinventing the wheel, because we shouldn't need to. Leisure Centres has been open for years. Why do we have to create a marketing campaign every year? What's that about? Why do we need to come up with a new challenge every month? Surely, if you've been open for 3 years, there should be 36 challenges we can pick from, right? Why are we recreating absolutely everything? So this is where we start to share stuff. So we're going to build in a thing called an exchange. And if you're willing to share with us, this is all free. We're not going to charge you for it. It's about making sure that we all do things consistently the right way. It starts to make sense. Copy function, ops community, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next one, inductions. Now, this is a mind blower, right? So when you've got a team, who's in the team? What risk assessments do they need to have for that department? What procedures do we need to make sure that we've gone through? And what are we actually asking them to do? Now, this is a mind blower. If you ever do this, there'll be certain people in your organization who are telling you they're busy. They're always telling you can't see it, but they're always telling you. This will tell you exactly what they're doing and when, right? Huge. So imagine if you did that ex-member campaign I was talking about before on the 5th of every month. I could check on the 6th whether it happened, right? Now, the problem is I go to someone and say, have you done that thing? I haven't had a chance yet. What was more important? What was more important than the biggest things that you want someone to do, yeah? So understanding exactly how we take the pain out of these inductions, things like shadowing. You must do shadowing with different departments. Because you know that, especially in an independent gym, you know everyone's going to do a little bit of everything, right? I don't know what the training looks like to answer the phone, but every time I ring organisations, they always say, I'll try and put you through. Don't try, just do it. Yeah, that shouldn't be a thing. So, yeah, making sure that they know. Because you know it makes them feel bad as well, don't you? There's nothing worse than when a customer comes to you and you don't know something. And it's not fair. So getting them trained up, making it consistent and knowing exactly what every department needs to do. Okay. Taking the pain out of one-to-ones. Could you imagine this? Could you imagine instantly knowing every single member of staff, exactly how they're getting on with their risk assessment reading, exactly how far they are through for all the procedures they need for their job role, and you can do the next job role if you want to develop them, because that would be nice. Knowing exactly how many tasks that they have done, knowing exactly what training and when it's due to run out, and knowing exactly what they need to be doing in the future. So I was in a site the other day. This killed me, this. This girl said to me, I'm the only one that does anything around here. Brilliant. I heard that before. So I said to her, excellent, let's have a little look then. She was a duty manager. Apparently, she got like a bigger badge than everyone else. So I sat down with her and I said to her, okay, so you've done 32 tasks. Somebody else in your same job role has done over 200. That's mental. So I don't know whether you're the only one doing anything, but I'm a little bit confused as to why you've only done 32 and they've done 200. Also, by the way, when you've been doing your wander rounds and checking things and looking for things, you've never, ever found a problem. And you've never fixed one. They all have. Are you sure you're the only one having to go? Oh, I didn't know you could do that. I said, that's not the answer, love, right? The answer is this is about knowing exactly who does what and when, and are they doing what they're meant to, right? This isn't Big Brother. This is one of the best tools you can have for patting someone on the back and going, do you know what? You've completed it. That's amazing. Brilliant. And imagine having it all in one place. Imagine having an overview of the whole organisation and seeing exactly where we are. Imagine if I was a franchise company and I could see exactly how every site was getting on for risk assessments, for procedures, for tasks for that particular day. Imagine knowing the sequence of how many people needed training by the touch of a button in our organisation. And we get a 3-month reminder, by the way, so we're not surprised that first aid runs out. Bear in mind that we are also an industry where we sometimes get surprised by January. And then we sometimes get surprised by like sport relief or National No Smoking Week or National Nutrition Week. We get surprised by these things. Okay? And again, pulling that training matrix into one place. How do we do this? Again, I was at a site the other week. Brilliant. It was in November. They got the first frost. Right? So on the first frost, the first thing they do is they went to the grit bin. They opened it. What was in it? No grit, poo bags and bottles. Right? So very, very quickly, it was like, okay, OpsPal, October, next year, let's make sure we fill that and put a lock on it so it won't have poo bags and stuff. It'll be ready. We get surprised by weeds, them things that grow at certain times of the year. So this stops all that stuff. We get surprised by leaves falling off trees and going in the gutters. And the fact that at certain times of the year, we're going to have a massive influx of people coming at certain times. So this pulls it all into one place so we can see it. Now, that's really my bit. I'm happy for anyone to fire any questions at us about what we would do or anything in general. But the key for me is not listening to me, right? I'm going to make out it's good, aren't I? Right? Of course I am, because this is our product. The key to me is if you want to speak to our customers, you can. Now, like I said, the offer that we have, all we need is if you give us your name and number, if you want to come on board and be part of this beta group, we would absolutely love you to come on board. If you don't, in a couple of years, you can pay a lot more for us because we are pretty good, and you will need it anyway. So, has anyone got any questions? Hopefully not, because it is dinner time, innit, and I'm starving. Anyone else peckish? Has anyone got any questions? I've either covered everything, or you are all dying to get off. Okay. If you'd like to sign, we have got a little stand down in the other room that no one's been into yet, down the far end, by the toilets. No, we're not. I just said that in case that drags you down that way. If you want to go down there, we have an OpsPal stand. There's a little thing that you can, like a little QR code thing that you can scan. If you want to come on board, absolutely fine. Like I say, from our perspective, we would love to help you. We would love to try and build the ultimate way of how to build the independent gym. At the minute, we've got around about 4,000 different risk assessments. I think it's 7,500 different procedures and over 15,000 tasks built into the system. So hopefully from that, you'll see that once we narrow that down to the bits that you need, I think we can help you. And I'd love to help you with it. Thank you very much.